Okay.
All right, then on the record, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum, so we can do business here this evening. The first item of which is the minutes of October 11th.
And let me pause just to mention, we have all committee members present except Susan West.
Okay.
Okay.
A mystery committee member running in the background at Sherry's.
I move approval of the minutes.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Sure. This is Robert. I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved. Our next item of business is Parmener Street, Elmwood Avenue, and Aurora Street reconstruction bid timing.
Let me scroll up just a bit for us. And some of this information in the agenda packets is now a little bit outdated. I forwarded to all of the committee members earlier today an email message from Andrea, who's here tonight with us, as is Alder Kathy Olson, to speak to this. And we have the engineer from Strand, John Solon, with us tonight. Even though Tom Stetzer's been working on this, he's traveling today. And our engineering technician, Sean Ulsrud, who's project manager for this, is here with us tonight too. So the short version is, after consideration and discussion, I would say that the briefest synopsis from Andrea is that most of the feedback she's heard would be a preference for keeping this road project in the 2023 time period, knowing that Stone Horse Green construction is expected to go forward in 2022. And even though then we're messing with the downtown for 2 years instead of 1 year, in any given year, it should be a little bit mitigated. But jump in, Andrea. This is the best place to do it.
You summarized where we ended up very well. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the overall goal for the businesses is just to shorten these timelines as much as possible. And although there was some discussion on maybe we should just rip the Band-Aid and get it all done, so then we're good to go in 2023 with all the road work and construction behind us. There was concern expressed from a number of businesses, and it just seemed like the downside risk of doing too much in 2022, particularly as we're all still trying to get our footing back under us coming through the pandemic, that potential risk was greater than the upside of getting it all through in 2022. So you've summarized where we've ended up. If Stone Horse Green is moving forward in 2022, then our preference as a business community would be to keep the road reconstruction in 2023.
And I apologize, in introductions, I skipped right over Kate Miller, Executive Director of the Middleton Chamber of Commerce, who's also with us tonight.
Hello, no worries.
Sorry about that. Did you hear from anybody, Kate, that had a difference?
I was on a call, one meeting with Andrea, and again, it was just kind of the back and forth on, do we just rip it off like a Band-Aid, or do we want to kind of push the two projects out over 2 years? And then I know Andrea had conversations through a message board, and we support whatever the majority of those downtown businesses are requesting at this time.
Okay, good.
A lot of this seems to me to be contingent on Stone Horse Green going forward in 2022. And I'm not sure what the exact status of that is. Robert, do you know more from the council's perspective as to how close we are to having the funding commitments to go ahead with this?
I can happily share that the fundraising that was taking place, really with some assistance from the city, but also heavily fundraised by individuals outside of the city staff area, met and actually surpassed their fundraising goals. So everything looks like it's going to move forward, and they intentionally overshot their fundraising goals just because everything's costing more now. And so they know that we may get less for our money than we thought we would. So they wanted to overshoot the fundraising a little bit. But yeah, right now everything's a go. Everything should move forward in 2022 and have, the majority of everything done in 2022.
Okay, well, that seems to make this discussion a little easier to deal with. Alder Olson, do you have anything you wish to add to the?
Yes, I would. We just had our Stonehorse Green Fundraising Committee meeting today, and we did have a timeline. And they're like Robert said, we have met our goals, and we would go forward with the bid advertisements in November and award of bids in January and take it to council in January. And we'd like to see the construction happen within March to August next year. Get it started as soon as we can. And they think it will take 5 to 6 months. So,
Okay,
and what we heard too is that since it's a clean site, there won't be a lot of remediation of the soils and stuff. So that should help move it forward quickly too. So,
okay. I guess the only danger with pushing back the street construction project is that the costs might go up even further waiting another year. But then again, I guess they might come down a little too. That's possible as well.
Sean, I apologize. Can you remind me what the anticipated time frame is for the road construction piece of it?
Well, if we go in 2023, I would anticipate we'll want to get started in spring with that. Ideally, we'd get done before Good Neighbor Fest. We don't have
Okay.
a firm, we don't have
Okay,
a
so
firm
it's
schedule yet, but
It's also a 6-month project.
No.
I could see it
I thought
being
it was a 12-week
4 or
project.
5, maybe.
I thought you had it as a 12-week schedule.
Yeah, do you know, John, if that's been firmed up?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it's more in that 12 to 16 week. I think the goal was to start in the spring and try to get it done by Good Neighbor Fest time. Here in your 2020 time, though, if you guys get the one done in August, I don't think there'd be enough time in fall of 2022 to squeeze it in. But yeah, it'd be like a 12 to 16 weeks, somewhere in there. Just because it's water main and street, it's not full utility.
Okay,
And I just one more plug from the business's perspective, and this applies to both this road reconstruction and it would apply to Stonehorse Green, but the earlier in the year that we can get these things started so that we can maximize the use of outdoor space that we have for the businesses. It continues to be really important for all the businesses. And so the earlier we can get started, the better in each year.
And Jessica Regal, I see you joined us. Did you have anything to add to the discussion? In case you do, you're muted, I'll warn you. Well, okay. So the consensus seems to be to keep it in the 5-year plan for 2023. I don't know if the committee wants to formally direct that or just sort of let it ride where it is.
well, it'd probably make sense to have a motion to say that's, does this have to go back to the council then? Does the council still have to approve this?
They'll take action on the 5-year plan here in spring, so we're going to update it. And if we just continue to show it in 2023, these minutes plus the 5-year plan will be what they'll take action on.
I would, before we move forward, I just also want to stress the importance of wayfinding for those businesses both years and just making sure that it's very clear, how visitors and residents can get to those businesses during construction and, where parking is and that type of thing. We're going to work with them on, sending out marketing and making sure that people understand that there's construction going on, but those businesses are still open, and this is how you can come down and still enjoy the area. So I just want to make sure that, and we'll work with you on what that looks like, and help communicate it out. I just want to make sure that it's something that is really taken into consideration, and maybe gone a little bit above and beyond what's typically been done in the past due to all of the hardship that those businesses have been through over the last couple of years.
Can I build on what Kate just brought up too? We've come up with a number of things, just a robust plan. Wayfinding signage is one part of some of the ideas that the businesses have come up with. And as we get closer to the start of the project, and when the project planning kicks off, we'd love to continue the conversation, to be a part of that with you on a number of ways, including marketing support, wayfinding, involvement in status meetings. Just, we have a pretty robust pipeline of ideas to help the businesses get through this.
All right,
Good.
very good. Does someone have a motion they wish to offer on this topic?
Yeah, this is Robert Burke. I would make a motion that we leave the Parmener reconstruction, Parmener Elmwood Avenue, Aurora Street for 2023, to spread out the construction time over 2 separate seasons. 2023 is what I meant to say, for the reconstruction of the roads, and 2022 for the work for Stonehorse Green.
All right, is there a second to Robert's motion?
Carl, I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this topic?
Bob, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
It's well, Jessica or Andrea. How did you hear back from a majority of the, what was kind of the breakdown of how many people wanted to wait and how many wanted to move forward? From your, what percent of respondents? Just get an idea of what you were hearing.
We heard from, I should have counted the businesses before. We had, I think, 12 maybe in our quarterly meeting last week. And then I went around and talked to another 5 or 6 maybe. So,
Okay.
A good 12.5 businesses, I think.
Okay.
The businesses who are closer to Stonehorse Green, quite honestly, were the ones who said, can we please spread it out? And the businesses that were farther from Stonehorse Green were the ones who were kind of like, let's just get it done.
Okay, because I did talk to Ron Boyer today, and he was just like, get it done, kind of what he was thinking too. But I just kind of wanted to get an idea of how many people responded and what the percentages were. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any further discussion on Robert's motion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that is what we will, I guess, recommend to the council.
Yeah, we'll show that to them as the 5-year plan then. Okay, thanks.
Very good. Thank you all for pitching in on this one.
Thank you.
All right, next item is future foam exception to driveway width standard at 2314 Parview Road.
Right, and I can bring up the diagram, but just in terms of a brief overview, Roxanne Johnson is here with us tonight. She's the civil engineer designer working on this project, and Pete Dahl is here representing Future Foam, the owner of what used to be the Hall Lumber site up at the in the industrial park. And so the request is, here I will jump to the diagram because it makes a lot more sense, I think. Looks like my bookmark took me to the wrong page. Let me zoom in on this too, if I can, just a little bit. That's probably better, especially for those with small-ish screens. So Roxanne had prepared this drawing of trucks entering and leaving and using the proposed new truck dock at that central building. So everything's color coded. It still can get a little bit busy, I understand, but at least if you're looking at it, you know, the purple is sort of one truck movement and orange and red are individual separate truck movements, if that makes sense. And this is just tracking where wheel paths and, you know, truck body overhang would end up in various movements. So the request is for a 40-foot wide driveway, and we always measure that at effectively the right of way, typically where the sidewalk would cross a driveway apron. And part of that certainly is documented as being justifiable from at least a combination of the truck movements, depending on how they get in here and or leave. And I know we haven't done this a lot where we've granted exceptions, but I did find at PDQ northwest of Century and Parmenter, where the committee had many years ago authorized building an apron 35 feet wide for exactly this same reason.
So Sean, is this request for 35 feet or 40 feet?
No, the request is for 40 feet. I only found previously that the committee had supported 35 feet.
What is the reason for 30 feet?
It's literally a number pulled out of the air, and I think it's a balance for what most people have found works. And with the added goal of wanting to limit the distance where a sidewalk and driveway are occupying the same space.
All right, committee, anybody have any comments, questions?
This is Robert. So 40 is, am I understanding that correctly? That 40 feet is 10 feet wider than our standard?
Than our standard maximum, correct? And,
Standard
and
max.
for the, yeah,
But
sorry.
visually, this is really helpful because this tells me that 40, things look tight even with 40. So I'm not suggesting we go larger, but I'm supportive of this, and you know, allowing up to 40 feet here because it just looks like this is going to be a busy area, and 40 seems more likely to be successful without snarls and backups than something smaller than 40.
I
And
wanted
did I
to
hear
mention
that?
too, I know Pete had his hand up.
Oh, I'm
when
sorry,
you're-
I did not.
No,
Okay.
no, you're on the committee. I get it. I just wanted to bring it to the chair's attention. So
That's fine. And again,
Uh,
I can't see people's hands up. So if
Exactly.
Sean, you or someone else can clue me
And
in.
I just wanted to clarify, did you say 40 feet? Is that's what's shown on the drawing? Robert, I didn't hear your.
Oh yeah, it's
It
40
is.
at its where it
Okay.
necks down, and then it expands out to 50 for the apron, but the
Okay,
actual driveway is, sounds like typically we would limit to 30, but this visually tells a pretty good story of why they might be asking for more than 30.
is this coming through a little clearer, Carrie?
yeah, I can see it now. Thank you.
Okay.
So we talked over Pete. Pete, did you want to?
Yeah, protocol wise, I used the signal to raise my hand. I didn't want to over speak my boundaries, but you know, again, what we want to accomplish here is it's a 5-acre parcel, and there's a current access to the north that Roxanne has eliminated. So we're just going to have one access to the property, and what we want to do is bring our trucks in and not back in off the street. We want to have a safe with plenty of space to come in. And if we went to a 30, we're a little concerned if people are parking right to the edge, it's going to get super tight and it's going to compromise public safety. So if we have a wider access, we're going to, even if cars are parked, you know, to that fit, you know, right up to the curb or to the cut entrance at the 50-foot wide mark, we should be able to maneuver trucks in and out of there safely and not have to back in off of Parview Road into the docks, which we really don't want to do. And I think this really helps enable us to get the trucks off the road safely and then do the maneuvering, the backing up on the parcel itself.
Is there typically a lot of parking during business hours on Parview Road?
Yeah, I have noticed, the businesses across the street in that area, there is a considerable amount of parking. So I guess there's obviously some concern to retain as much public parking as possible or on-street parking, but we are going to seal up the entrance to the north and essentially, giving up some parking on the north side of that parcel.
Okay. What I was going to ask, can't really see it on the visual now, but why would the trucks be going around to the north there if that exit has been closed off? Doesn't this show why?
It's showing maneuvering. So and maybe Roxanne can explain it better, but the red truck shows the truck coming in off the street and then backing into the docks, the red lines.
Okay.
And Roxanne, maybe you want to explain the various lines and what you were demonstrating.
Right. So the red is backing back in. The orange is actually just the truck getting around that building. They are gonna park some trailers elsewhere. Is that right, Pete, on this lot?
Correct.
And so they want to be able to get around all these buildings.
Okay.
On the very western edge of the parcel near the tracks, there's quite a bit of space, and we plan to use that to store trailers. Kind of, you can see there on the back part of the parcel. To get them off of, there's a lot on the corner of Murphy and Parview that's pretty congested, and this allows us to free up some congestion in that lot as well. But that yellow line allows us to get the trailers around the building.
Okay, I understand. All right, committee, any further questions, comments?
This is Carl. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 40-foot width of the driveway.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second to Carl's motion?
John, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just wondering, there's other businesses on Parview Road. I don't see, I don't have a big concern with this, but I'm just wondering, if we approve this, are we comfortable also approving other businesses that might come to us with this? Is there any concern about, other businesses wanting 40 feet driveways and then, will parking then become an issue on this road or other roads in this area?
Harry, I think that's why I asked the question initially about why the limit was 30 feet, and I didn't see a real strong reason for it. I mean, so we have a double occupancy and 10 foot of sidewalk extra. I don't see that as an issue, especially in a lot of these areas where the sidewalks are probably not that well used.
Well,
And here we don't have sidewalks yet.
if history is any guide, the original time that we made an exception, or not we were not, none of us were on the committee then, but was back in 2006. Was that what it was, Sean? 2004 or 2006? And it's taken that long for the next request for an expanded driveway to come across the committee's agenda. So I wouldn't anticipate we would be inundated with them, but who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Carl's motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Now, this is a recommendation of the council also, Sean?
No, this will just be a waiver of our standard. I think this falls below the level of concern of the council. It's sort of a design element.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your input, people. Made input. Pete and Roxanne, I guess.
Yeah, have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So long.
I'll get back to the agenda here.
Our next one is Resolution 2021-52, Burger King, an easement encroachment agreement.
Right, and I'll try to get us to the drawing of this one too. Skipping over the memo and some of the language. We can always come back if there are questions, but a drawing is always the best way to go, right? So at the southeast corner of Century Avenue and Parmenter Street, where the old Hardee's restaurant is situated, we have a storm sewer easement that runs, I don't know, at a goofy angle near-ish the south edge of that property. You can kind of see the restaurant building closer to Century Avenue. And the need for redevelopment as Burger King requires 2 drive-through lanes. And so between the building and the drive-through alignment, the only physical way to get 2 drive-through lanes in there is to get into the storm sewer easement area, which in itself is fine. Where we started getting into bigger discussions was the electric line needed to power the menu board, the ordering stand, is, I know, something we try very, very hard to avoid, having private electric in an easement area. I couldn't find any solution to this. So that, in short, is why it's here.
Why does there have to be 2 drive-through lanes?
Well, now that might be a better question for John. John, do you want to unmute?
Yes. Hello. You guys hear me okay?
Right.
The double drive-through lane, it allows us to really create better flow through, and it gives us the ability to decrease the queuing of the cars. And it's become kind of a mandatory element from the brand's perspective. I think you'll see it, pretty much as a standard in QSR with McDonald's or Burger King or Chick-fil-A now. It just really gives us better throughput and just creates better conveyance for cars and minimizes congestion in the parking lot. And so much of the business these days is drive-through orientated that it's really become a critical component of the restaurant.
All right. I mean, I guess that's Burger King's preference. It's not a requirement that there have to be 2 drive-through lanes. I'm thinking of other fast food establishments in Middleton. Culver's has 1 drive-through lane. I think both of the McDonald's in Middleton each have 1 drive-through lane and seem to be surviving with it.
Right. Yeah.
The difference here with Culver's is that they have a huge, long ability to queue cars, and it still gets queued out onto the street. And this one, if you look at that map, it looks like to me it's, they're going to queue cars out on the Parmenter. Is that what I'm seeing here? I mean, I don't think you're going to queue cars through their parking lot. That's going to be the entrance right there off of Parmenter, correct?
This will be a major entrance. There is another driveway up on Century Avenue, but it's probably not used by as many entering vehicles as exiting vehicles.
I think that having this double makes a lot of sense in terms of, keeping the traffic, going on Parmenter.
It's also, I would just add that the franchisor's position is so strong around the need to have double drive-through that they don't approve sites that are single lane drive-throughs in new restaurant development. They make exceptions around existing facilities in redevelopment applications, but when you're submitting to them for a new restaurant development, they've just made it a mandatory item, which is really why we worked with Sean so diligently around this to kind of come up with a solution that we could all live with.
All right, my concern with this was the worker safety issue. And Sean, are you convinced that with the electric cables and conduit and then a concrete duct and flagged by red tape or whatever, that's going to be a situation that will enhance safety if anything does have to be excavated there?
I think it's at least the best we can do.
Yeah.
You know, everything's a balance, right? You know, so if it's going to be a business or not a business, I think this is probably safe enough. It's as good as we can do to make it happen.
John,
I see, Bob, that Don and Carrie have their hands up.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I can't see them, so.
Nope, I'm just calling it out.
All right, good enough.
I think, Don, you were first, probably.
yeah, so a couple of things. One, what's the age of that storm sewer? And then secondly, if that storm sewer should fail and let's say there's an undermining under the island, that could be an issue. Probably a very minor concern. However, if that storm sewer needs to be replaced, is Burger King aware that they could be without drive-through period for a period of extended time, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks?
Yeah, my first guess is we could probably repair that by wiping out one of the drive-through lanes and probably keep the other one functional.
How deep is it?
It's fairly shallow. It's a 30.
Yes, most storm
pipe.
sewers.
You can show them the diagram, Sean. There's another
Yeah.
diagram.
How old is the storm sewer, Sean?
It was installed in 2006 when Highway 12 became Parmener Street.
And what's the typical lifespan of that kind of construction of a storm sewer pipe?
Oh golly, in excess of 50 years, I would say. If it's in good shape, it's concrete pipe, so
Okay.
it's pretty tough. So we definitely will want to, prior to putting all this concrete on top of it, run our camera through there because we got a camera last year, and just make sure that as of right now, things are in good condition.
Yeah, so it's what, 4 feet down, by the way. So yeah, you could do it in one lane.
Okay. Any other discussion on this issue?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, have we looked at any other design options? You know, like Sean, if you scroll back up, I just don't know, like, is there any other options to put the drive-through a different place? I'm assuming someone's looked at that, but.
Well, I looked at it a little bit, you know, I mean, if it's going to be 2 drive-throughs, right? And they're both feeding into a pickup window, it could be brought a little closer to the building, but then it's offset from the driveway really badly. So I don't know if that would work very well. I don't know, John, if you looked at it as well.
Oh, we did. Our civil team, we all looked at this. We spent a lot of time looking at this, looking for some, alternative that made sense. And, this was really the best option we can come up with because, we would, if we could avoid it, we would. But at the same time, we feel we have a level of comfort. We took full responsibility for anything. If there was any need to go in there and do some work on the pipe, we understand that, the cost of any restoration work, et cetera, is borne upon us. We feel that it's a manageable risk, just because of, Sean's point that in general, these storm structures have a long lifespan and they're not prone to, failure like with any regularity. It's a relatively small length of area that we're actually encroaching on. So we felt that it was, a reasonable thing for us to take responsibility for.
Okay.
Yeah, so this fell, I mean, I think that's a really good point, Carrie. And for me, it fell into a different category than the Napa parking lot light issue where they wanted to cross a storm easement with a conductor for lighting. And there was a reasonable alternative to that.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. That's why I was kind of wondering if there was, another option.
Mhm.
And so your staff, Sean, is saying that they're comfortable with this.
Yeah, right. We've kicked it around internally for a pretty long time, actually. And we didn't come up with an answer we really wanted, but we came up with the one that seemed the best balance anyway.
You know, these discussions are always surprising to me. We're talking about here a 120 volt single 20 amp circuit. I mean, there are sites, I mean, Don's laughing. There are sites all over this country that I've worked on where we're running 4,000 volt conductors in through these sites with really no issue at all. And they're encased in concrete and they're in steel conduit encased in concrete. I fail to see where there is a significant safety issue here. I mean, if somebody tries to excavate this, even though it's not shown on a digger's hotline, they're going to hit that concrete first and stop. They're not going to keep digging. So I'm surprised at, this kind of discussion based on a safety issue, because man, I don't think there's a safety issue here.
I agree with you, Carl. There's no safety issue. Mine was just really that, are they prepared that if they had to shut down while we repaired the sewer, that they were willing to do that.
Yeah. And I think we've tried to mitigate the safety issue. I have had enough bad days digging up electric stuff that I frankly am done with it. So.
Well, this is Robert. Thanks, Carl, for that summary, because some of us don't have the years of experience you have. So thanks for sharing your experience with us. Given the low risk and the fact that everybody's willing to do what they need to do to mitigate even that low risk with the conduit and the concrete bunker around this thing, it seems like it's probably not much of an issue. So I would make a motion to recommend allowance of this. I assume this is a recommendation to somebody else, or do we make
this
the
will go
final
to the
call?
council.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I'd recommend approval of this project to the Common Council and anyone else.
I'll second, Bob.
Yeah, and I'll offer a suggested contingency, just that it go to the council after I can fill in the date of the final plans up in section 1. It's the only highlighted blank in here.
Oh, good then.
That sounds great.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on Robert's motion?
I just want to say that, I agree. Thank you, Carl and Don, for your expertise on this. I still just feel that there could be another design option. So and based on kind of Sean's comment, it sounds like there's still a risk. So I'm not completely comfortable with this, but I appreciate that you all, thanks for your input on that.
All right, further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay?
I think the ayes have it with a single nay vote from Carrie. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. The motion carries, and that will be our recommendation to the council. Before we leave this topic, Sean, I have a totally unrelated question to the motion. But can we go to page 7 of 11 on this thing?
Yep.
Okay, down a little further, right there.
Here?
Yes. Who is Pocinelli, PC, Mary Jane, Judy in Kansas City, Missouri? And why are they drafting things for us?
He is the attorney for the tenant, Burger King, which is different than the property owner, but on behalf of Burger King, she was using a modified version of our standard form, but it has been reviewed by our assistant city attorney, Matt Fleming, extensively. So she just happened to have drafted it.
Okay. But it was reviewed by our city attorney. That was
Yes.
my
Yes.
primary question. All right, thank you. Item next, I guess.
Yeah, so that'll be resolution 2021-53, which is at long last the resolution for council approval of effectively 3 easement issues. One is relocation of a sidewalk easement because the building moved, and we've intended that since the project began. So we're finally getting to that. It's the release of 2 unused storm sewer easements. They granted us a 3rd that is being used. And it's abandonment of portions of the sheet piling and wood lagging system that was cut off and is buried under the sidewalk. So it's all 3 of those things.
John, correct me, that this has already been discussed several times in this committee, correct?
Yes.
Especially the abandonment of
Yeah.
pilings, we've talked about a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
The abandonment of storm sewer easements that are unused, I don't think we have talked about. The developer just noticed that they're still there and really don't need to be. And the sidewalk issue we talked about a very long time ago.
So do we need to talk about them much more this evening, I guess is maybe the point.
I would say no, these seem, except for the issues that we've already talked about ad nauseum, which obviously did have a lot of questions surrounding them at the time. I think that the easement issues are pretty straightforward, so I'm comfortable moving forward tonight.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything to say before a motion is made?
Anyone?
And I will make a motion. I would recommend approval of resolution 2021-53 related to easements and release of other easements and the underground piling easement agreement.
All right. Is there a second to Robert's motion?
Carl, I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on Robert's motion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that will be our recommendation to the council.
All right. Next up is our annual property maintenance service agreement. We sent out again requests for quotes for as needed services for lawn mowing and snow shoveling for the most part to 4 local landscaping firms. I heard from one this morning, but it was due last week after the park packets went out. So we had only timely heard from B&E Construction and Remodeling again. And I think the prices were pretty much the same as they were last year. Maybe slightly higher than they were last year. So unfortunately, we just got one too late for me to do anything with it. The packet had already gone out.
Yep.
So I would recommend B&E again. And again, this is all paid for by the benefited property owner. We're basically a pass-through agent.
So just out of curiosity, how much a year is this contract?
It depends who refuses to mow their lawn or shovel their sidewalk.
Right. But I mean, is it a $1,000 issue or a $10,000 issue or order of magnitude?
Yeah, it's probably within under a couple $1,000s, I would say, for the year.
Sean, this is the company that we've used for the past several years, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
And their work is satisfactory as far as you're concerned, as little as it may be.
Well, as far as I know, it's actually our community services manager that gets these complaints and then takes action on them. So it never really even comes to me. I just put the contract together.
Okay. Any other questions, committee members? Are we ready to move forward on this one?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the Finance Committee and Common Council B&E Construction and Remodeling to go into the, sorry, to enter into an agreement for the property maintenance services agreement with B&E Construction and Remodeling.
All right, is there a second to Carrie's motion?
This is Robert. I would second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that will be our recommendation to the council. All right, on to our last issue.
Right, so the last one
And
is.
I have a quick question here, Sean. Can people still see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Because my computer screen has been completely taken over by advertisements for Adobe Flash Player or something, and I've lost all video to you guys. I
Wow.
can still hear you, but all of my video connection to you has been disrupted, and I don't want to mess with this too much because we've only got one more issue left to go, and I can do that verbally. I don't need to see you to do it, I guess, as long as you can still hear me.
Great.
And the good news is I'm still on the air, so the odds didn't seem in favor of that either.
All right.
Yeah, so our last agenda item is hiring a consultant to begin the design and property acquisition services of Parmener Street reconstruction north of Century Avenue, about 450 feet north of Century Avenue to Greenbrier Road, where we have the rural cross section yet, and the goal is to turn that into an urban cross section. Many of you will recall that, I think it was last year, the council settled on a cross section, typical cross section anyway, of 90 feet, which would include a sidewalk on the west side and a multi-use path on the east side, bike lanes on both sides, one travel lane each direction, and a wide median that could be converted to additional travel lanes in the future if needed. So this will be the design of that project and real estate acquisition needed with it. We sent out to 5 area firms requests for proposals. We got back 4. One had evaluated the time that it would take to put into making a proposal on this, and ended up finding out that they just couldn't put that much time into it. I think it's pretty clear that the proposals we got are all really responsive. Some of them have a slightly different focus and flavor to them. But I don't think the committee could go wrong in any case. Both Eric Sorensen and I evaluated this. We had some differences of opinion, which made for a lively discussion. That happens. And I think that was a really good thing. I found out some things he saw, he found out some things I saw. And at the end of the day, we ended up forming a recommendation for MSA professional services to the committee.
There's a pretty huge differential in bid prices on this.
And hours. I mean, they correlate, right? MSA is not just the lowest cost of services, although how we deal with real estate services as part of this is different in the various proposals. Some have assumptions built in with costs that go with it. So even if we take what I think would be a pretty conservative estimate of real estate needs that MSA provided to us and added it in to this price, I think it would still be by a little bit the lowest cost proposal overall, but I think it is pretty conservative on real estate needs too then. There are some things we can do during design to help mitigate how much land we need.
So you're considering their conservative real estate proposal as being the $80,000? Which you
In
add
terms-
if you add that in, then their proposal is 250.
Yeah,
But that still creates an extensive difference. I mean, that's $148,000 from low to high, which is, I mean, if you divide that by the low, that's 60% different. If you divide it by the high, it's 40% different. I mean, I'm never, I'm always suspicious. Is that RFP that bad, or why did this happen?
oh, that's a fair question. And maybe on the first point, I was looking at the 250 compared to the next one, which was from Strand, I think was closer to 270, not 400.
Strand was 295, as I see it.
Okay, 295, so 300 instead of 250.
Yeah, still pretty big difference.
It is a big difference, and actually with us tonight, John Solon is with Strand Associates. John Jenkins is with MSA. Like anything, we did what we could to try to write a request for proposal that would describe the overall project intent and scope of services we thought we needed. Everything we've ever written is imperfect, and I think it's a fair point. Maybe we didn't understand something going on. I don't know if John has any input on that.
This is John Jenkins with MSA. I know that we had done the original survey that was to be included with this for other people, so we're quite familiar with the corridor. I know that Eric Thompson in our office has looked at the stormwater modeling in that area, so another one of the big unknowns on this corridor is something that we have some experience with. And looking through all of the numbers, believe me, when I saw where our numbers fell with other people, it raised a few flags with us, and we went back and double, triple, quadruple checked our hours for where we comfortable with where we are, considering the project that this is, and we are. I mean, I hate to leave money on the table, but I also am not gonna add hours where I don't think they're needed. So I think we are comfortable with the time that we put in for the scope included. And that's, I guess, the best way I can put that. I don't know if I can convince you that I'm comfortable or that you should be comfortable with us, but I know that we have performed very well for you in the past, and look forward to doing the same here.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Committee members, comments, questions?
This is Robert. All of the companies who quoted this are good companies that the city has, good past experiences working with all of them. If this particular company stands behind their numbers, I think I feel pretty comfortable that, maybe some of their past work just gave them a little bit of an edge. Maybe they left some money on the table, whatever it is. I think we can get good service out of the low bid.
Sean, I'm a little curious. We had one of the proposers drop out because of the costs and time related to the effort to put together the proposal. And I think I've said this in these meetings before, that why do we even ask for a proposal? Just ask for a price, because we always go with the low guy. We don't really evaluate the proposals. I know we say we do, but price seems to weigh 90% of the selection process.
Well, for me, it's not that high.
Okay,
really.
75?
No, I mean, I don't discount it, but it's not really what I'm looking at. And we only send these out to firms that we know can do the job. right? We're not just, this isn't a cattle call. This is not wide open. If you got a request from us, it's because you're a good firm. So that's not at question. It's what did somebody see? What did they consider that maybe frankly we didn't see? Because I think Carl raises a really good point. We don't see everything when we're sending this out. People bring ideas to the table. And I would say that, you know, in particular, we thought Mead and Hunt and Strand and MSA brought different ideas to the table, ideas with value. We thought they were all well written. So mostly we're looking at, you know, what's their process? What are they including? Why are they including it? What ideas are they already kicking around? But yeah, we look at price and hours too. That's important.
And I think that's the critical element here is that, and considering the hours are there, that comparing hours, and it's difficult. I mean, the project itself, what's the value of this project that we're looking at? Has anybody given us a rough estimate for that at this point?
Yeah, we did when we turned in an application for grant funding through the state. And I think it was in the ballpark of $4.5 million as project for project expense, I think. And the estimate was broken down, of course, it being the state. So I think the design and property acquisition services, when neither of those was very well known, was about $600,000.
Yeah, which would be more realistic because we're looking at now, if you look at just percentage of cost, a design and real estate, et cetera, that's less than 4% or 3.77%. And typically, you know, Carl, you can address this as well. Typically, a fee is at least 6 or 7, if not more, especially if it's a complex project. And that's just in general, which scares me a little bit that we're going with someone that is so much lower on the cost scale.
Well,
And that's something Eric and I
from a rule
talked
of thumb
about.
point of view, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. Could you
No, that's
repeat
okay.
that?
I mean, it's just I mean, you look at it from a rule of thumb point of view, and it's kind of, yeah, concerning.
Yeah. So that's something Eric and I talked about, and I talked with John about that, which is why he double and triple checked their numbers. You know, at the end of the day, they have a terrific track record. They're a reputable company. If they say they're going to do this job well at that price, I don't have any reason to doubt that's true.
And I feel much better when John says that he's doubled and checked and triple checked it. I mean, it basically he's done what I guess I would have done too. And as a receiver of an RFP, is sit down with the proposer and go through it to make sure. And that's essentially what's been done. So I guess I'm okay.
All right, any further discussion? Anyone have any other questions, comments? Are we ready for a motion, committee?
Yes. They're all good companies, but I would make the motion that we recommend MSA as a group that we should sign up with for the Parmener Street reconstruction, design and engineering, and real estate services with.
And I would add a proposed contingency
Please.
to include city attorney satisfaction of the pending agreement form.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
We don't have it written yet, but we'll use our standard template.
Yeah, that sounds great. That would be my motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second to Robert's motion?
It's Carl, I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? the motion implies the number being in there, right? We don't have to put,
Well, there's, I mean, I don't want to hold them to like not to exceed on the 170 because I know that's the base cost, but I mean, they did say there's some added cost that could come into play, I think, if I understood it correctly.
okay.
Yeah, so I had said, you know, the base cost can't exceed that then, because the agreement will have a number in it. But we'll just be upfront and have our heads up that there will be at some point an amendment when we know what the design is leading toward real estate needs.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that will be our recommendation of the Finance Committee and the Council.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
I believe that's our last topic of the evening.
I think it
That
is.
was the end of the agenda. Yeah.
We have one more item of business.
I think Kathy has her hand up. Oh,
Oh, I can't,
she was turning it off.
Oh,
Okay.
Your hand up?
nope, I think she signed off.
Oh.
She's not in anymore. So,
Well,
Okay.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
This is Carrie. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we stand adjourned. Thank you
Excellent.
all. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I can't see anything